Bob Bowlesby today alluded to this. What we used to report, or we were, and I was, so it's in a way, this is an update for you. The 35% drop is kind of what has been said. In fact, Bob Bowlesby even said that in front of the Texas legislature. I'm not sure exactly the exact term or Senate about how the value of Texas and Oklahoma with their TV contract. But I said this earlier, the current payout year is $409 million. This is part of the original, or I guess it was the extension in 2012. West Virginia, TCU come on board, right? And then the new extension of the grant of rights, the TV. The grant of rights was put together to keep anybody else from leaving, correct? And if you do, you have to pay for every year you're not there. Or what happens is the Big 12 gets to keep your TV revenue. The 35%, if you take it from this particular year, the current payout is $409 million. But by the end of the grant of rights, which is in 2024-25, that is about $450 million. So that's another $40 million minus 30%, okay? That's still a chunk of another $23 million or so, give or take $1 million or $2 million. That's more money than has been estimated that might be available with the extension of the current grant of rights once that's done with ESPN, and that's who it appears it will be. Secondly, the Tier 3 rights will continue, and we've mentioned that now a lot, that's on average about $15 million. Texas and Oklahoma is a different animal. And that's really schools going out and getting that on their own. Go find that extra money. And that money, which is included when you hear about the television network revenue from the Big Ten, the SEC, even the ACC, and I believe the Pac-12, I could be wrong on one of those conferences, is jumbled into the 50 or 60 or whatever million. With the Big 12, that is not included in what you hear that they get a year, which is 34 or 40, whatever million it is at this particular time. One of the things that obviously would make a difference is if CBS got involved, they probably won't. Fox gets involved, they probably won't either. But the bottom line is this. There is a chance that what was earlier this week, 22 to 24 million gross, could be, and I'm not saying could be as I'm just guessing here, 30 million more or more. And I think a lot of people remember what the guys who've been on the show today, 8, 9, 10 million, 12 million a year or something. That was like the max, right? With Houston bringing up. Yeah. So now you're talking about what everyone thought might be below 20. Then we tell you 22, 24. Now it might be 30 to 34. And that does not include the Tier 3. Now, there's still a lot of little sensitive things that have to be done, Paul and Craig. But that is even more news that is now ballooned from what could be 18 or 20 maybe to the possibility of being somewhere between 28 and 32 million. Minus the 10% that goes to the conference, and then you keep the rest. It just gets a little bit better. Now, there may be a hurdle here. There might be where something happens that kind of changes things. And there are still a lot of paperwork. There's still a lot of paperwork that needs to be taken care of as well. One thing that we do know is that there's more than a pulse. This is not life support. This is now a conference that today had their day. Because Lord knows Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 have been hammered since late July. In a lot of ways, they probably earned it, even though it came out of nowhere and they were blindsided. And you move on. And you might have more money per year than you thought. And guess what? Once that new grant of rights extension occurs, which let's say it's 28, 30, 32, every year there's increments again. It doesn't just stick at that number. There's going to be increments as long as the grant of rights continues, however long that extension might be. So that's kind of where we are a little bit with the new teams, the 14 teams, what could be 12 teams, but what we thought at one point might end up being 8. And I got a feeling Chapter 2, and no one's told me this, but Chapter 2 is at least being written. It still may just take a while before it's published. We're live in Grand Prairie, Texas, the Gopher Bowl, the Gopher Warrior Bowl. Tonight, football between Midway and South Grand Prairie, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock kick when we come back. More to come, including how does Cincinnati think about today? What an interesting story with our good friend Chris Brendel that covers Cincinnati Bearcats football and the Athletics next on Sick'em